Next to me is the brand new Polestar 3, and in this video, I'm going to take you around this new large electric SUV. I'm going to tell you everything you're going to need to know about this Swedish engineered but Chinese manufactured electric vehicle that's going to go up against the likes of the BMW iX when it's released at the end of next year. It's hard to go past the first thing that hits you about the Polestar 3, and that is the striking design. It's basically the anti-Tesla Model Y. It doesn't look like an egg. It's quite striking, it's quite cutting in the way the forms have been drawn here, and personally, I like this. Design's subjective though. You can let me know down below whether you like the look of the Polestar 3. This one has the performance pack, it's fully featured, and this color, which is kind of like a glossy gray version of Nardo, this is called Thunder, and I think it looks really cool. Now, what you can see here in the headlights, by the way, these are 1.3 megapixel high definition LED headlights, is Polestar's new light signature. So they're actually trying to get away from Volvo's Hammer of Thor light signature. It's still pretty similar, but in future we're going to see these blades start to be separated by Polestar to set their cars apart. Now, of course, we've got the Polestar logo here in body color, which looks really cool, but then down here, in place of where a grille would be on a combustion car, is a deck of sensors that gives this car what Polestar says is really sophisticated semi-autonomous driving capability. And later on next year, you'll also be able to get LiDAR on the car, which is cool too. But otherwise, it's pretty nicely finished down here, bit of gloss black, but also some plastic cladding around this car because this is Polestar's first SUV model, which is pretty important in today's new car market. While it's Polestar's first SUV, the profile is actually a little bit more like a Volvo Cross Country, kind of like a raised station wagon. And if you're a subscriber to Chasing Cars, and I encourage you to do that below the video, you'll know that I love a cladded wagon. So this car is a bit of me straight away. But from this angle, looking down this sculpted and sunken bonnet, you can actually see 3 holes in the deck of the bonnet there, which aim to disturb the air passing over the car less, and it's got a decent drag coefficient. And then we come down to a pretty aggressive wheel and tire package here. We've got staggered wheels on this car, and while it runs on the same SPA2 platform as the forthcoming Volvo EX90, Polestar says that this car is a lot sportier, and you can see that in the wheel and tire package. So we've got 265 wide Pirelli P0 tires here on the performance pack, but at the back they are 295 width. Not quite as aggressive as something you'd find on a BMW iX M60, but you're getting pretty close. You're also seeing the Brembo brakes in there and all the gold detailing that's becoming a hallmark of Polestar's performance pack cars. But of course, this is an EV, and that means that stuff like the battery size and the range is critical. So in the Polestar 3, or under it I should say, we've got a 107 kilowatt hour usable skateboard battery that Polestar says is going to be good for up to 610 kilometers of range WLTP. But if you go for the performance pack like this car, that's going to fall to something like 560 kilometers WLTP, perhaps a little bit less than that in the real world. They're saying 300 miles EPA for those of you watching from the United States. However, interestingly, despite the fact that Polestar 3 uses a 400 volt electrical architecture, unlike a Hyundai Ioniq 5 or a Porsche Taycan, it can actually do DC charging at 250 kilowatts. Not sure how long it actually touches that peak for, but it does mean that you can replenish 70% of the battery charge of this vehicle in just half an hour. Now, you remember those holes in the bonnet at the front of the Polestar 3? Well, they end up jetting through a similar gap here on the top of the tailgate. And you can see that next to me, this is not a tall and bulky SUV. The boss of Polestar was having a chat to us this morning about the fact that this brand knows that driving a big fat SUV in 2022 is starting to be a little bit of a faux pas in certain parts of the world, particularly here in Europe, where I'm talking to you today. And I think that's probably why the Polestar 3 doesn't feel anywhere near as big or imposing or as aggressive as a vehicle like the BMW iX. Instead, it feels quite a bit more chic and much, much lower here at the back. Can't speak to visibility, but I think you can probably see the aperture on this window is quite tiny. But then your eyes fall to this absolutely gorgeous light signature here at the back, LED all the way around and all sorts of cool detailing on top of it. Wish they had hidden the rear wiper though, that's a bit annoying. But then we've got the Polestar badge here as well, and cladded plastic plus an integrated button to open up our power tailgate. Not the biggest boot in the segment, I would hazard. It's 4,900 mils long, but the boot space here feels more mid-sized than large, but you do get a bunch of classic Volvo and Polestar touches here. Grocery bag holders, you've got straps for your champagne bottles, you've got a pass-through for your skis. It's pretty fully equipped here in the boot. Now, jumping inside the Polestar 3, we've got a few design signatures in here that remind me of the Polestar 2 that I ran as a long-termer for 6 months on Chasing Cars, but there's also a bunch of features that are Volvo-esque and a whole bunch of new stuff as well. And it's important to remember that while this car's cousin is the Volvo EX90, that car hasn't been revealed. So the Polestar 3 is actually the first car on this new shared platform called SPA2 that we've actually been able to see with our own eyes, not to mention climbing all over and touching like we've been doing here today. And the interior is striking, and it has to be, because this car is going to cost $135,000 in Australia as a launch edition when it's released locally in early 2024. So this is a very, very early look. European deliveries will start in late 2023. Now, importantly, at launch, you're going to get basically all the options on the car as standard, apart from the performance pack, which takes you from 360 to 380 kilowatts of power, cuts about half a second off the 0 to 100 time, and you get a bunch of gold detailing like these seatbelts. But everything else that you see in here is pretty much standard on the base car as it comes. And that starts with a new technology package, 14.5-inch vertical touchscreen here, running Google Android Automotive operating system. The Polestar 2 already has that, but this has got more widgets on the screen in response to customer feedback, still based around Google Maps. Sadly, no Waze application natively, but hey, in the next 18 months, that could change. And then we've got a beautiful slim little display here with more Google Maps and just your critical range and speed readouts. Now, you might be able to see up there, we've got a gorgeous cone speaker for the Bowers & Wilkins stereo in this car. Now, Volvo has been using Bowers & Wilkins for quite a while with its flagship products, and it creates a beautiful sound. But the Polestar 3 takes it to the next level. 25 speakers, 1,750 watts of power, plus Dolby Atmos. And if you've got a pair of AirPods Pro or something like that, and you've experienced Dolby Atmos, you'll know it's a big deal, and it should make the audio experience in this car feel pretty sweet indeed. Now, I'm actually sitting on leather, which is interesting because Volvo say that they're going to abandon leather in their electric cars, but not Polestar. Now, it's going to be an expensive option because it comes from the finest cows in Scotland as a byproduct of very high-end meat production, basically. And Polestar says that essentially those hides would go to waste. So for customers that want leather, you can still get it, but it's going to cost the best part of 10 grand, we think, in order to option it. Your standard seats are going to be either a material called Microtech, which replaces crude oil with pine oil in its production, because vegan interiors often use quite a lot of oil to produce, but there's also wool. And I would probably be going for the wool myself. However, with the leather, you get gorgeous open pore black wood, which is a really nice touch. Other standard items, wireless phone charging at 15 watts, high quality materials all around the cabin, and beautiful, gorgeous, comfy seats, the sorts of thing Volvo has been delivering for years and Polestar is also now picking up on. Now, interestingly, the Polestar 3 will not be offered with an optional third row. So it's not really a direct kind of Volvo XC90 replacement. And like the BMW iX and Audi E-tron, it's only going to be offered in a 2-row configuration. Now, Polestar says that was very deliberate. I think it might be to set the car apart from the EX90, which is coming soon, but it also means that the back seats can get pushed really far back, and so you have this limo-like legroom. However, the floor is fairly high in the back, just like so many EVs, but particularly ones that don't tower that high, like the Polestar 3. So as you can see, my knees kind of have to stand up a bit, so you end up splaying your legs to get a bit more comfortable. That said, I think it's perfectly serviceable here in the back. The seats themselves remain comfy, the material quality remains high. We've got air vents, seat heating in the rear, flip down armrest with cup holders, all that sort of stuff, USB-C chargers. However, one small thing, if I sit back and I try and look out the window, my head is actually sitting next to a lot of plastic rather than the glass. So to get a perfect view out, you've actually kind of got to move your head forward a bit. Now, is that a big problem? No, it's just with this car, it feels quite well finished and quite well put together. So we kind of have to nitpick to look for issues like that. And that's one that I think I can find. But otherwise, the view forward is good. It should be comfy here in the back, partially because the Polestar 3 has adaptive air suspension as standard. So those are my very first and early impressions of the Polestar 3 at the car's global unveiling here in Copenhagen, Denmark. Now, Chasing Cars is an independent publication owned by an insurance company in Australia, Budget Direct. So my opinions of this car are our own, and there's no commercial or sponsored arrangement with Polestar. So I've given you my unvarnished first impressions of the vehicle. Now, of course, so much rides on how the Polestar 3 drives, because the competition is getting much stronger back home in Australia in the electric SUV segment. I'm looking forward to getting behind the wheel. There are expressions of interest open now in Australia, even though the Europeans can actually start ordering their car from today. So if you want to get in line to buy one of these things for around $135,000 before on-road costs and before incentives, you want to head over and do that with Polestar. I'll hopefully be getting my first drive of this car around the middle of 2023, so make sure to hit subscribe down below and catch those impressions when they come. And now I want to turn it over to you. Let me know your comments, your responses to the Polestar 3 down below in the comments. I try and respond to as many as I can, and I really care about your feedback. And as always, thank you for watching Chasing Cars.